Hello ladies and gentlemen, Captain Shaq here, and welcome to a pilot episode of a news show for the channel. Now, I want to get your guys' opinion on it. This one is being done by Dukat over on Gull Gaming. Now, we've done a few videos together before. He's one of the Star Trek Armada 3 devs, and he's a really nice guy. He's a really cool guy, and he knows the modding community because he's a mod author. And this show that he's putting on is talking to mod authors about the mods that we all love to play. People like the Sins of the Prophets guys, you know, just all kinds of mod authors from all kinds of games. So I love the concept. It's the reason I started TheXpGamers, was to spotlight mod authors, and I asked them, hey, do you mind if we bring this show to TheXpGamers? So this is that pilot episode. These will be happening hopefully, you know, as often as he can get these interviews done. But let me know in the comments below what you think of the series. And thanks for watching. Enjoy the series. Enjoy the episode. Later, guys.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my first real episode of Modders on Modding. Those of you who are already subscribed to me, you may know that I have a playlist called Modders on Modding, and what I wanted to do for a while is I wanted to have the opportunity to talk to actual modders, and that's exactly what we're going to do today. I'm joined today by Admiral Thrawn, who is the creator of Medieval 2 Total War mod, Age of Petty Kings. Hello there.
Hello.
Hello. What we're going to do today is we're just going to have a little chat with you about modding, about why you mod, if you don't mind, sir.
Of course. Sounds good to me.
So let's just start off with the obvious question. What is it that started you modding?
I think what it was I wanted to be a content creator. I've always been interested in making video games, but every time I tried to make a video game from scratch, I've always found myself getting stuck on the aspect of creating the basic framework for the game and not being able to do all the design stuff that I wanted to do. And so modding, I felt, gave me an avenue that I could actually do the interesting design aspects without getting caught up with all of the making the different pixels render in the right places.
I see. So you already have kind of a fairly advanced knowledge of programming, etc., before you came into the modding scene.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a computer science student right now, and also, I mean, I know programming pretty well. But I feel that even for advanced programmers and all, making a fleshed out game from scratch is really, really hard and really, really time consuming. And it's very, very hard to do anything interesting with that game once you've created it. Okay,
so you felt that with the tools that you were given, using an existing engine, you could really make something special.
Exactly, yeah. I love the Total War series beforehand, and I always wanted to make a strategy game like that. I want to be able to do that without being caught up on the minutia of getting all the little things working. And so I decided to just basically build a new game on top of that.
I see. One thing that a lot of modders start out as is a one-man show. Did you start out as a one-man show, or did you already have a team in mind before you started the project?
No, I started off as a one-man show, but I actually started off as a one-man show doing mods for Third Age Total War, the Lord of the Rings mod. I mean, yeah, the very first one that I made that I actually released was... It was a scripting mod that let Mordor gather its armies from its various allies and whatnot. So, I mean, things like that. I mean, like, you generally want to start out small, making like a little sort of add-on to a game, and then from there you can sort of build up and get more and more advanced.
That's a good piece of advice, ladies and gentlemen. That's something I didn't do. My first ever modding experience is actually Star Trek Armada 3, so... Yeah, it was a very, very steep learning curve. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a really good idea. If you are interested in modding, if you want to get into modding, start out small, look for the right people who can help you out, and you will blossom from there, trust me.
And the trick is this, start out small on something that only requires a couple of skills that you need to learn, because having to learn a whole bunch of modding skills all at once is enough that makes anyone quit modding, so, yeah.
It can be quite daunting, can't it?
Yeah, totally. I started just like my first thing was just scripting, writing, and image editing, and that was it. And the writing I already sort of got from school, so yeah.
There we go. Now this kind of what we talked about just now, it ties into the next question I wanted to ask you, and it's what inspired you to modify Medieval Total War 2 rather than any other game?
I think that it's just because the modding community is already so vibrant there. I have poured an ungodly number of hours into Third Age Total War, as I mentioned, as well as Call of Warhammer and many others. I've always been a fan of Westeros as well. Before I modded this, I did a couple of other minor add-ons and tweaks to Westeros, like the Golden Company and whatnot. And I've been a member of the Hatsi community, so I think I think according to Steam, I've poured like over 700 hours into this game by now. and that's not counting the actual modding that I've done. So, I mean, I love the engine, I love the game, I feel the modding community out there is the best that there is. And yeah, I didn't want to get caught up in modding the later games that I feel aren't as polished, I guess. I mean...
Yeah, I could understand that. I think people have faced quite a lot of difficulty in modding. Is it Rome 2?
Yeah, Rome 2, yeah.
Just because it wasn't as polished as it could be when it came out. So the people who started modding it actually faced problems from the get-go. A lot of those problems have been resolved now, ladies and gentlemen. So if you do want Rome 2, do get it. It's all right now.
It is a good game and all. I think the problem is that for those later games, the graphics are so advanced. It's very, very hard for a beginner modder to make things that look good compared to the rest of the game and all. Like in Medieval 2, everything has a lower number of pixels and whatnot, and it all looks fine because it all looks the same. Whereas with Rome, making a beginner's model in Rome is very, very hard. It would have to be very, very sort of detailed.
I see.
So, yeah.
Well, what we've been talking about, what is it that made you choose the A Song of Ice and Fire universe? That's Game of Thrones to people who haven't read the books, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, because I am a massive, massive nerd mostly. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones. I read the books. I watched the show. I'm also a huge fan of the Game of Thrones lore in particular. I'm a big fan of like world building and fantasy realms and whatnot. And so I've worked on a couple of my own original sort of universes and whatnot, like just basically sort of in a similar style to Game of Thrones. But really, I'm a huge fan of the series. I'm a huge fan of the universe, and I felt like there was a lot of opportunity to be able to expand upon that. Also, the Westeros Total War mod that looks like it's going to be amazing. I got tired of waiting for that. I mean, it's an amazing looking mod, and I'm really excited for it. But I mean, like it's been taking quite a bit of time, and so I figured, you know what, I'm just going to put this out right now and make it different enough from that mod that you can sort of have them stand next to each other. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do. That is, it's always a good idea as a modder to try not to step on the toes of any other modding groups.
Totally.
And one thing that you've done with this mod is you haven't set it in the time frame of Game of Thrones. Even what you've actually done is you've taken it how far into the past?
About 2,000 or so years, 2,000 to 4,000. It's all very vague. I mean, George R. R. Martin makes it pretty clear that everybody says it's like 10,000 years or like 11,000 years, but really it's probably much, much less than that. So nobody really knows, but yeah, a couple thousand years in the past.
I see. So that's kind of after the time of the first men, and after the Andals have colonized. Yeah,
well, it's sort of in the middle of the Andal Invasion, because I mean, the Andal Invasion wasn't like they marched in there and conquered in a couple of weeks and all. It took like centuries. It took thousands of years, really. I mean, so the southern parts of Westeros are already pretty heavily Andal colonized, whereas the Riverlands are still a war zone and the Vale is still a war zone. And so there's fighting going on there. Also, the Iron Islands are still a war zone. So there's fighting all along sort of that bar across Westeros. But the southern parts of it are all very Andal, and they're all fighting each other, and the northern parts are all very First Men.
Yeah, that's something that I picked up on a little bit. I actually started a game earlier on today. You'll be seeing a little bit of footage of it as we carry on, ladies and gentlemen. As House Grey Iron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that was quite a nice and interesting start. I was immediately attacked by House Whore. Mm-hmm. Was it House Whore? Yeah.
Hoar, I think. I don't know. I don't like House Whore because it sounds like they're, Lady of the Night, but I mean, yeah, something like that.
We'll call it Hoa.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Mm-hmm.
I was immediately attacked by them, which is, that is actually a lore plot piece.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me quite a quick introduction to what was going on, what houses were fighting, and it also showed me immediately that this wasn't the same time frame as Game of Thrones, because that house didn't really exist in the time frame of Game of Thrones.
Totally, yeah. I mean, a lot of the houses that are currently in this game were wiped out a long time ago. I mean, I think about half of them are currently don't exist.
Yeah, or they change their names as well, don't they?
Sometimes they do. I don't recall any that change their names, but I know that there's a lot of offshoots that are currently around.
And there are also some assimilations, like one kind of what you would call one of the larger houses will go and become members of another house effectively through interbreeding, through marriage, or through the mainline destruction of said house. Like, for example, House Gardner is a good example.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, there's Gardner blood in most of the Reach houses today, but the Gardners themselves were wiped out at the Field of Fire. So yeah.
I hope everybody's following this, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't read the books, do pick up a copy of each and every book that George Martin has written. They are absolutely full of lore. They're full of songs that describe the past. They're very, very comprehensive.
Yeah, they're great. Even if you watch the TV show, the TV show is great, but the books add a whole lot more. So we do
They really do.
Yeah.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, we better get back to business now, because we'll talk about it all day if we're allowed to. One thing I wanted to ask is, are there any specific limitations that you face in modifying the engine that you've used?
Unfortunately, yes, quite a few. Now, so Medieval 2 has these hard-coded limits that have to do with the allocation of memory in the computer. I'm not going to go into too much detail because that would probably bore 99% of the audience. But basically, there's hard-coded limits on the number of factions you can include, the number of settlements, the number of units, and a couple other things as well. Which means that I'm very limited in how many factions I can actually include in the game. So you can have at most 30 factions, and I'm having to actually delete one of them, House Sunderland. They're not going to be in 2.0 because I only had room for one faction, and I wanted to include the Night's Watch and the Wildlings. So I'm going to have to remove them, and so I can add the extra one. But yeah, it's very, very frustrating to have those sort of limits involved. I also had to remove the provincial levy system, like the ones where each individual castle has its own levies. Now it's going to be just each sort of recruitment region has its own levies, just because I wasn't able to have enough units to make all of the new ones that I'm planning to make. So
that's actually one of the things about your mod that I really liked. There's a specific thing that you do where you have to destroy a house in order to gain access to their faction-specific units, if you will.
That's still in it and all, because what it is destroying an entire faction. You have to destroy the entire faction to be able to gain access to their units, which is still in there. But I also made the thing where basically each individual castle has its own unique levy. So you'll have like Blackwood levies, Tully levies, Vance levies, like that, and then you conquer that castle. You can recruit the Vance levies in the Vance castle and all that. Now, I've gotten rid of that, so instead it's basically just sort of all-around sort of Blackwood levies, like that.
I see. But there are specific units, and you'll see it during the course of the video, like, for example, there's the Greyjoy Raiders.
Yeah.
And they're specific to Pike, I believe, aren't they?
Yeah, so basically I'm going to be removing units like that are specific to one castle. I'm going to be adding some unique AOR units. But there's a lot of like sort of generic levy units that it's like each castle has its own unique ones, like how like Rowan levies, Oakhart levies, Hewitt levies, etc. They're going to be merged into their own sort of regions.
I see. Now, a lot of people might be wondering, and we've covered this just now. Why isn't House so and so included? You've covered that via the limits. In addition to that, there is a timeline gap.
Yeah, there is, yes. I mean, a lot of the houses we know today in Westeros don't exist right now. The Targaryens, for example, at the moment, Valyria is still a bunch of shepherds and all. I haven't actually found the dragon eggs yet, so the Targaryens, they probably exist right now, but they certainly are not conquering the world. They're probably just a couple of, basically, redneck hillbillies up in the mountains of Valyria, so, yeah. So they aren't really forced right now. The Baratheons, they were actually just, like sort of an offshoot of the Targaryens and all, who stole the sigil and colors of the Durandons, who currently rule the Stormlands. The Tullys were not a major force right now. I don't think that they were petty kings at any point and all. It was the Blackwoods and the Brackens that were fighting.
That's
so
right.
They exist, but they're a minor house at the moment. So yeah, there's a lot of houses that haven't really made their debut yet.
That's right, and there are kind of developments and offshoots as well. For example, the Karstarks.
Oh yeah, the Karstarks they're not either. Yeah.
They're not around yet, but they do develop later on because they're actually an offshoot of House Stark.
Yeah.
Anyhow, right. What else did I want to ask you? I have many questions. Now, you have a lovely map of Westeros that you use. Are you the original creator of the map? Or
no.
Is it something that you've made use of?
Well, what it is the map was originally created by this guy called Toho, who's on our forums, and he is pretty awesome. Then this guy called Stannis the Manus, he took it, he made some changes as well. And then I took it after that, and I made some more changes to it. So it's gone through a couple of hands by now. But yeah, Toho made the original base thing, and it looks great. But yeah,
I
I then went and changed around some things. I added, like, for example, I put the Eyrie on top of the mountain and all instead of just in the Vale. I added some other mountains and whatnot where they moved around the Westerlands a bit to make them more lore accurate. And then also I added, for 2.0, I'm adding all the areas north of the wall, and I'm redoing all the islands.
That's something I'll actually show, ladies and gentlemen. The piece of video that's just showing right now is from one of Admiral Thrawn's. I'm going to link you his channel. It's from one of his videos that he posted fairly recently showing how he edits height maps, particularly, and he's doing some of the mountains in the north in this video. Really, really cool to actually see him doing that, and I'm really pleased that he released that video, because that's what made me get in contact with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotta say, it makes it much more interesting when you're doing height maps and all, because height maps can get kind of boring sometimes. So doing them and sort of narrating it can actually be more interesting when you're doing it, so, yeah.
I would imagine so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so one thing that we've been looking at is the unit rosters, the recruitment. Do certain factions or certain houses have advantages over the others at the moment?
Yes, they do. I tried to balance the rosters. There's really sort of 4 major rosters in the game and all. I mean, I'm going to be the next version will have a lot more variation and all, but the current version of the game that's out right now, there's the Dornish rosters, the Andal rosters, the First Men rosters, and the Ironborn rosters. And I sort of tried to give each one their own advantage and all. So, for example, the Ironborn rosters, they have the best heavy infantry in Westeros, but they have almost no cavalry. The First Men have the best archers by far, and out of anybody in Westeros, but they have no sort of they have a very weak center pike line and all that. The Andals, meanwhile, have excellent pikemen who are very, very powerful. In fact, way too powerful, actually. I'm going to nerf them in 2.0. And they also have the best knights in the realm and all that, like the heavy cavalry. And then finally, Dorne has sort of a good sort of combination of everything except for a center line of heavy spearmen. And so instead, they have a lot of good medium cavalry, the only horse archers in Westeros, and a couple other advantages as well. So I tried to sort of give a hammer paper scissors kind of thing going on with the various rosters.
I see. So it's always good to pick a faction or an area that's going to suit your playstyle. For example, if you want to be a very quick moving,
yeah, that's Dorne.
Well, yeah, that would be kind of like the lightning strikes from Dorne. Do they have a large grouping of lancers as well?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, with Dorne, they most factions when Westeros have a unit of sort of knights that are like either actual knights or sort of heavy firstmen cavalry, and then they have really, really, really bad outriders. Now with Dorne, they have knights, but they also have really, really, really good things called lancers. And lancers are basically like really, really buffed outriders and all, who are also pretty cheap as well. So basically, they could have lots of medium cavalry in the field really easily.
That's fantastic. I mean, I always like talking about Dorne because they actually, somehow they wound up as pretty much my favourite house in the Game of Thrones lore.
Yeah.
And I think part of that was because this takes place a little bit later than your mod, but they were pretty much the only unconquered faction.
Yeah. Well, they were conquered briefly, but they were able to fight them off, so, yeah.
They were, yes. And they came into the fold with the Valyrians eventually through marriage, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it was, to go full-on nerd here, King Daeron II married the Martell Princess, and his sister Daenerys married the Martell King, and that sort of kicked off the whole Blackfire Rebellion, but that's a different story. So,
that's not the Daenerys that you're thinking of.
Yeah, different Daenerys. Yeah.
Okay. One thing that I did notice when I started up the game for the first time is you don't currently have unique startup movies. No, is that something that you're going to want to do?
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely plan to include that in 2.0. In 1.0, I wanted to have I made a cinematic preview for it that I posted on the channel and all that. You can find it on the Moddb as well. And I wasn't quite sure how to convert it to the format for Medieval 2 to work and all that. And since the mod, I had already scheduled the mod's release for like the next day, I was like, nah, it's not worth it to delay the mod just for that. But I definitely do plan to have unique startup movies in it, yeah.
Now, one thing, and this is something that really also impressed me about you, is you feel very, very strongly and very, very passionate about this mod. That is evident just from talking to you. I had a chat with you the other day. You've actually given up your day job in order to mod this full time.
Well, I will have given it up in like about a month's time and all that. I spoke to my manager, and he said, so we agreed I'll be leaving the company on October 2nd. And basically, he also made it clear that that's sort of closing the door and all that. So it's sort of the Rubicon is crossed. But yeah. So. So yeah, so the plan is I'm going to start school around then as well, but I've made my schedule so that I'll have about 30 to 40 hours a week to mod, and I'll continue doing that for as long as I'm able to with my savings and whatnot, and with the donations. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that I wanted to tie in for everybody. I'm going to be putting a link on my page to Thrawn's donation site. He's actually taking donations in order to further develop the mod. It's not something that a great deal of modders do, but it's something well worth considering. When it comes to a mod of this scope, of this capacity, do think about donating. If you enjoy his work, help him out.
Yeah. You know, this is really, the donations themselves are basically so I can keep working on this full time and get it done much faster. I mean, pretty much everything is probably going to be done eventually, assuming I don't get bored of it. But basically, this means that I'll be able to work full time for several months and all that on nothing but this, and that'll make it get done a lot faster and a lot more content.
That's fantastic. In addition to that, is there anything that you're looking for at the moment? Like, for example, another small thing that I noticed is currently a lot of the units, they have original voices from Medieval Total War 2.
Yeah.
Are you looking for voice actors, or are you looking for help in order to put new original sounds in?
I definitely plan to do that at some point. I'm not sure how to, and I'm gonna be looking into it. I probably will put up a call for voice actors at some point and all, because once I figure out how to actually get new voices in, I'm going to need to have more than just my voice saying, "Yes, my lord," or whatnot, so, yeah.
So, if you fancy yourself as a Stark, if you fancy yourself as a Grey Iron, in a couple of months' time, do give Admiral Thrawn a message over Moddb, I think is the easiest place to message you.
Yeah,
there you go.
Like a thing, announcement, text or news or whatnot to say any some.
That'll be fantastic. Is there anything else that you want to talk about with regards to the mod?
I'd say I think the interesting thing right now is just the way that I chose the factions and balanced them and whatnot. Just like from the way that I set things up and all.
I see. Now, this mod is fantastic. It's thoroughly enjoyable. You've seen a bit of it on screen today. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen. I think I might well do a Let's Play on this. Not sure what faction I'm going to choose yet, ladies and gentlemen, but there we are. Another thing that's very, very interesting about this mod is, as you can see here on my screen, it only last week achieved Mod of the Week on PC Gamer magazine. This is the online edition, evidently, because I can't be waving a piece of paper at you, ladies and gentlemen, but here we are. This is a full news piece about Age of Petty Kings. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen.
Bit of an ego boost right there, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a big thing to have your mod up in such a reputable. What's the word? We're gonna call it magazine because that'll.
Sure, it says magazine. Yeah, I'm not sure if they've actually printed it, but yeah.
Okay, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to ask you. I'll be posting a little bit more gameplay, probably within the next week or so, and perhaps starting a Let's Play off, ladies and gentlemen, if that's what you want me to do. Once again, thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for joining me, Admiral Thrawn.
Of course, pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you like what you've seen today, please do like the video, please subscribe. I'm going to be leaving links to everything that we've spoken about, the mod itself, in addition to the donation page, etc., in my description. So do click on that, and if you've got 50 cents, if you've got $1 to spare, please hand it over. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.